Today's show is dedicated to heavy whipping cream. Invented in the early 1980s as a cheaper, more fun alternative to light tapping cream, this key ingredient can be found in dozens of foods, such as pastries, peaches, and water, to name a few. As we all know, heavy whipping cream was created by Bulgaria's third most famous innovator, none other than Miss Gloria T. Whipping Cream herself. In a fascinating and well-lit interview with the Yesterday Today Sheboygan 30-minute news hour, Miss Whipping Cream recalls how she found her inspiration to invent the cream that shares her name. Ever since I was a little girl, I always wanted to invent something that people could use for all sorts of tasty treats. And so I created heavy whipping cream. And thank God it happened to share my name. But secondly, and maybe more importantly, I soon realized that heavy whipping cream could also give people the chance to condescend to others by completely overemphasizing that it's called whipping cream, not whipped cream. No, not whipped cream. I still get letters all the time from people from all across the world and parts of Arizona thanking me for my invention, for ridding them of their pesky friendships. They go on and on about the one person reminding the other that there's a colossal difference between whipping cream and whipped cream, and that this distinction is as important as solving world hunger itself. I'm sorry. I'm getting emotional just saying all this. I'm very grateful. End quote. But it's we who are grateful, Miss Whipping Cream. You're a saint and a heroine. Not the drug. Okay, insert hilarious preamble here. Be sure to be really funny and witty and just a delight. Remember to say the word welcome way too many times. Make sure that guitar thingy is playing in the background here. Tell them that you are Nathaniel David Knox 47 times and that you're excited for this story called Nuclear Family, and tell them that there's only one more episode after this one in season 1 and junk like that. Make sure you work in enough jokes and clever wordplay and stuff so that you can prove to everybody how smart and funny you are and how you still have your whole life ahead of you and that you're a creative young man with such potential. Find validation wherever you can. Again, so you can prove to everyone, especially people you don't talk to anymore and people from high school who you never liked in the first place, that they need to see you're doing good the most. They need to see that you didn't just fade into the past or whatever. Because that's all that matters in life. The approval of people you were forced to sit in rooms with for 4 years who you haven't seen in 10. Just make everybody like you. And whatever you do, edit this out before the final recording. Welcome to Several Stories High, a narrative podcast featuring original stories from all corners of the spectrum. Fiction, fact, or perhaps more appropriately, somewhere in the great galaxies between. I'm Nathaniel David Knox. Let's see how high we can climb. The kitchen was dark indeed, but it was the silence, and the silence alone that shrouded the solid oaken table even tighter than the shadows ever could. In the black, the toaster was dead in cold metallic defiance. The faucet sat hunched over the sink in an ancient sort of defeated drought, and the old radio hadn't crackled back to life since its final message some time ago. No, not even the once trickling chirps of serenading birds could penetrate the draped windows that were long since signed and sealed to fate. "But Mom, I'm hungry," came the voice of a small boy in a nearby room. "Shh," hissed his mother. But why can't we light the candle? Why do we always have to be in the dark?" "Hush, I won't say it again. You know the candle is for special occasions only. That is, we have any flint left. But can't we pull back the curtains? Little Janice said. Just this. No, said Mother, harsher than she had wished. Who knows what or who is peeping around out there? Plus, you know the rules. Not a sound until your father returns. Now be very quiet. Not a word. Understood? Yes, ma'am. And slowly, carefully, the sound of rickety wheels began to squeak and moan, followed by the pitter-patter of obedient feet that flowed into the kitchen. The wheels stopped. Matriarchal hands, weathered and worn to the bone, finally found the edge of the solid oaken table in the middle of the room. The soft scrapes of 3 chairs rang gently, and when all were seated, all was silent. The wind howled from beyond with a powerful hunger, but still, the stomachs that all barely touched around the edge of the table rumbled greater. Mother? Joseph, what did I just say now? It's important, said Joseph with a failed attempt at lowering his speaking voice. Mother sighed. What is it, darling? Is it almost Christmas yet? Mother paused, turning her unseen head and scrunching up her shrouded brow. I cannot recall. I'm sure it will be soon. I'll fetch the calendar when we get some light. Now hush, child. Who knows how many nosy ears are perked and prowling about out there, just itching to pounce. Mother? Asked Janice, who need not actually behold her mother's irritated but receptive countenance. I'm so hungry. Me too, said Billy. Children, need I remind you of the rules again? 3 young voices groaned routinely. Go on, let's have it. The sighs cascaded into darkness before the hungry chorus spoke. We don't eat until Father's at the table. Very good, said Mother proudly before letting out a chuckle. But, yes, well, I suppose a little appetizer wouldn't hurt to hold us over, yes? How does that sound? Golly, yes. Me too. Me 3. All right, said Mother. Lower your voices now. You're like a pack of firecrackers. She carefully leaned back, reaching her hand to the precise spot on the counter that she had come to know better than the back of her own hand. Mother found what she reached for and passed around the items as if she were dealing blackjack. It was Joseph who inhaled first, just before he was to bite into the bread when... Are we forgetting something? Hands clasped, heads bowed, and grace was uttered at the table. Finally, the pieces of pumpernickel were bitten into with a stark ferocity, despite the cacophonous, unnatural crunch of the long-since staled crust. Something thudded against the front door. The table froze. The doorknob started to jiggle wildly. Mother reached under the table and pulled back the hammer of a .38 special. No one moves a muscle, she said as she stood and slowly made her way towards the noise. The doorknob kept shaking. Mother kept the pistol pointed with her finger flirting with the trigger. The door broke loose and swung open wide, ushering in a gust of cold, dawn-lit wind around the silhouette of a burly man with some sort of carcass draped over his right shoulder. Hi, honey, the man coughed violently. I'm Oh, Roger, said Mother, setting the pistol on the floor. Why on earth didn't you come in the normal way? You nearly scared the dickens out of us. No worries, my dear. We'll just have to scare it right back into them when we read A Christmas Carol soon, he said as he crossed the threshold. Roger pressed his unkempt beard to his wife's textured cheek for a kiss. I tried using the key, I sure did, but I dropped it. Couldn't hold this guy and unlock the door all at once. Thank the Lord, said Mother, eyeing the medium-sized elk whose lungs surely once teemed with formidable breath. This'll buy us another 3 weeks if we're lucky. Roger dropped the carcass along with his rusty old shotgun to the front of the foyer and shut the door. Now where are my youngsters? Father! Cried the children in the dark. Let's get these blasted drapes away and get some light in here, said Father as he entered. And when the vintage velvet unfurled from the windows, rays of dirty light poured into the kitchen. The walls were faded, the appliances were out for good, and the doorless refrigerator was bare and dry as a bone. Father took his seat and began to partake of his bread. He surveyed his family and smiled, just the same as when he left them the previous night. Sandra, his bride and the mother to his children, sat with a soft elegance, her white apron nestled over her scarlet dress. Her beautiful chestnut hair was pulled back behind her face. Her marred, sullied, and blistered face. Keloids like tan cauliflower blossomed all around one of her periwinkle blue eyes. On her cheeks hung wrinkles as deep as the Mariana and as premature as the end of autumn. But she sat, upright and noble, as if it all simply were not so. And Janice, Father's one and only daughter, was busy tracing invisible masterpieces into the parallel grains of oak with her one and only hand. Her other arm, ending at the elbow, hung dormant at her side. And Joseph, rubbing the top of his totally hairless head, naively, but all the more desperately hoping that by some strange miracle, the friction would bring back his sandy gold locks. And then Father's eyes met Billy, his eldest. His, "Can we please have some venison?" said Joseph from his side of the table. "Now hold your horses there, kiddo," said Father. "Still have to skin it and clean it and cook the big fella. You know that. But I'm hungry now." "Easy there. We'll have to wait until I can get down to the trading field and get us some more flint. So go get some," said Joseph. "Can't yet. Old Richard Kimber said the bandits are starting to strike in broad daylight now, by God. So any trips will need to be made at dusk in groups for the time being. Be patient, little Joe. We'll eat good soon enough." "But just shut up already, Joey," said Janice. "Watch your language, young lady, and don't speak to your brother that way," said Mother before biting into more rock bread. "What a dweeb," said Billy, shaking his head. "Just cool your jets, will ya, William?" said Mother, slow and firm. "What?" said Billy indignantly as Father looked his way. "Don't get mad at me. It's Joseph's fault. He's just rushing is all. Always in a hurry to fill his cheeks." "What?" yelled Father. The whole table winced. Billy's unblistered eye was wide with fear. "What did you just say? In this house? Under this roof? Answer me!" I just said it was Joseph," said Billy, tears welling up in his eye. I just meant that he was being annoying." "You know what you said. You called your brother a terrible, horrid name, and I won't stand for it. Say it. What did you call him?" I don't understand what you... "A Russian. You called him a Russian. How could you? Your own brother. Does family mean nothing to you? You don't ever speak of that place. Not towards your brother or anybody." Sniffling sounded. "Do you understand?" Yes, sir." The rest were speechless. Billy was weeping now. Father was weeping too. Mother leaned over to Father, soft enough so the children couldn't hear. "Roger, he didn't call him you know what. He said that his brother was rushing. Rushing, yes? You know, like hurrying? Course you know, don't be silly." Father looked uncertain through his foggy, fatigued eyes. "Oh, Roger, be reasonable. It's not like every person in the country dropped the bomb." Father shot Mother a stone-cold, calculated look, and Mother let the matter drop for now. Father paused. Soon he was trudging through a much sharper, self-induced sort of heartbreak. He stood somberly and strode over to his eldest. He placed a hand upon his weeping son's gnarled, patchy head. "Billy, I'm I'm sorry. I didn't mean to lose my temper. It's just what they did to us. I know not all of them, but it only took one of their fingers to press the... Oh, forget it. What I'm saying is, how's about it, son? Can you forgive me? Can you forgive your old man? No, yelled Billy. Just leave me alone, okay? Father spoke not. Billy dropped his salty hands to his sides and strained. He shot back from the table. The wheels of his rickety wheelchair moaned even more than he did now. He rolled himself past his family and over to the great pair of back windows. He sat and stared, fresh hot tears simmering down his rosy, ridgy, keloid-riddled cheeks. His lone eye squinted and peered out, far, far down the mountainous slope that his home rested on. And down they landed upon a deep, dark valley of desolation that had long since set up shop. The former epicenter of the city. The very core of life was nothing but mere mounds of smoldering rubble, still blanketed in the perpetual, warm embrace of soot and devastation beneath a meandering tempest of ashen gray. Buildings once spilling forth with life and spirit now sat as scattered, unmarked tombstones in a crater of aging decay that served as a cursed basin, a feeble offering to a reaper great and grim who had previously traded his bloody scythe for an oil-laden launch button, and his dark cloak for an even darker cloud in the shape of a rotting mushroom of blinding light. Billy sat at the window, entranced by the valley of death that was still flickering with the floating flakes of 1,000 lives lost within the betraying arms of a nuclear winter wonderland. "Oh, Billy," said Mother, winking to Father as she stood and came to her son's side. She placed a leathery, loving hand on her son's shoulder and took the boy's face by the chin until his eye met her disfigured, smiling gaze. "Buck up there, kiddo. It's not the end of the world." This episode of Several Stories High was written, composed, and produced by me, Nathaniel David Knox. Thank you for listening. You can find out more about me and the show over at severalstorieshigh.com. And if you're a social media kind of person, we're on social media for social media kind of people. You can follow Several Stories High at SSHpod or SHPOD if you prefer. Just remember there's 2 S's. And until next time, thank you for listening.